All dead, all rotten, elves and men and orcs. The Dead Marshes. There was a great battle long ago, yes, so they told him when Smeagol was young, when I was young before the Precious came. It was a great battle, tall men with long swords and terrible elves and orcs shrieking. They fought on the plain for days and months at the Black Gates, but the marshes have grown since then, swallowed up the graves, always creeping. Hey guys, Yoyston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Dead Marshes. While there isn't a great amount of history for this land, I'll do what I may to outline what is there. Thank you all for joining me today. Let's begin our tale. Before they were called the Dead Marshes, this land was a small marshland lying northwest of Dagorlad, the battle plain in front of the Black Gate of Mordor, and southeast of the Emyn These marshes looked and smelled as one might expect. They were cold and lacked any real greenery besides weeds, dead plants, and scum atop the waters. Terrible mists laid upon this dreadful land, and the marshes were grown all the worse after they consumed the buried dead from the Battle of Dagorlad. The Battle of Dagorlad took place in 3434 of the Second Age, during the War of the Last Alliance. High Kings Elendil and Gil-Galad marched towards Mordor alongside King Omdir of Lothlorien and King Ortner of the Greenwood, along with other commanders among the Free Peoples as well. During the fighting, however, the Sylvan Elves under King Ortner defied the will of Gil-Galad, and they charged the enemy upon the plains of Dagorlad preemptively. They fought well, but many found their deaths upon the battlefield as a result of their brashness. King Ortner also met his demise alongside his elves. While the battle raged, King Omdir and his Sylvan Elves too did not follow Gil-Galad as they should have, and they became cut off from the armies of the High King and the others. They were driven northwest into the marshes, and in that place the elves of Lothlorien took their final stand, and many of them perished. After the Battle of Dagorlad, many of the dead among the Free Peoples were buried outside of the marshes, but as time passed over the span of the Third Age, the marshes grew and engulfed the graves. Thus they became known as the Dead Marshes. This place would continue to grow its reputation in the second half of the Third Age, as in the year 1944, King Ondohir of Gondor and his men were ambushed by the Wainriders from the east. As the king, his sons, and his army were killed, some of his soldiers were driven back into the Dead Marshes during the disaster of the Morannon. Urnil II, who would be king after the death of Ondohir and his sons, would avenge the men of Gondor who fell that day, as he would lead an army from the south, and during the Battle of the Camp, he would drive the Wainriders into the Dead Marshes to perish there. Thus the Dead Marshes grew in its acquired dead, as it held the bodies of men, elves, and orcs from 3 different battles. Many years later, in 3017 of the Third Age, Aragorn had been hunting Gollum for years at the behest of Gandalf the Grey. During this time, the ranger had finally tracked Gollum to the Dead Marshes, and it was there Aragorn apprehended the creature before bringing him to King Thranduil's halls in Mirkwood. And finally we come to the 1st and 2nd of March, in 3019 of the Third Age, when Gollum took Frodo and Sam across the Dead Marshes, after promising the Ring-Bearer his service. As Gollum led the 2 hobbits through this historic burial ground, the company saw lights, which Gollum called the Candles of Corpses. What these lights were exactly are unknown, as it seems that the bodies only appear in the water when the candles were lit, and they were not actually there decomposing. Let me know what you guys think about these candles in the comments below. Do you think that they are spirits that were somehow denied entrance to the halls of Mandos, or are they something else? After Frodo became entranced by the Mirror of Dead Faces, Sam broke him from his trance, saving him from any danger that may have befallen Frodo had he followed the lights. Sam goes on to speculate that the illusion of the dead might be some devilry from Sauron and Mordor. Gollum told the hobbits that the dead could not be touched, implying that he had tried to eat them at some point in time. Quote, Sam looked darkly at him and shuddered again, thinking that he guessed why Smeagol had tried to touch them. End quote. Only Gollum would try to do something like that. To me, this makes the spirits that might have dwelt in the Dead Marshes very alike to the Oathbreakers, as both the dead from the Dead Marshes and the Men of the Mountain still seem to maintain some level of consciousness. Anyway, during the journey through the Dead Marshes, and after the dialogue between the companions, one of the Nazgul atop a fell beast passed over the Dead Marshes, revealing to Frodo and Sam that the Nine were yet abroad, and the three companions were still in peril of being found, as they grew ever closer to the dark land of Mordor. The next morning, March 2nd of 3019 of the Third Age, the companions left that dreadful land behind them, but they carried the memory of it, and they journeyed onward towards Mordor. And so ends the canon history detailing the events that transpired in the Dead Marshes. I would imagine that Gondor or its allies would try to cleanse or memorialize that land in any way possible as the ages went on in Middle-earth. For the wars against Sauron were over, and the West now had the time to remember their fallen. Tolkien himself speculates in one of his letters that, quote, "The Dead Marshes and the approaches to the Morannon owe something to northern France after the Battle of Somme. They owe more to William Morris and his Huns and Romans, as in the house of the Wolfings or the roots of the mountains." End quote. And so ends the account of the tales of the Dead Marshes. From this land we see the true horrors of war, something that may be forgotten in the majestic land of Middle-earth. While war exists, places like the Dead Marshes will as well, and that is an undeniable sorrow. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed learning about the Dead Marshes with me today. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this video with a friend. Let me know your thoughts about the Dead Marshes, the tales that transpired in that land, and their possible inspirations in the comments below. To contact me or to help the channel more directly, please check out our Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and merch in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today. I'll see you all again next week with a video on the exile of the Noldor, continuing my older series entitled The Timeline of Arda. But for now, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one, my friends.